Peace and love. This is Travis Sellers. I'm an emerging doctor in marriage and family therapy, and I wanted to share with you my experience as a student. I'm 54 years old, going back to school, and what that's like, and what it takes to be a doctor at this level, in this field, and also hopefully, really wanted to share some tips as I go along in the process, those tips those life, I guess you say life skill tips in marriage for people who are in the beginning thinking of marriage, and also those who are in marriage and the middle of the graces of marriage, and you just want to get better as a partner, as a person. Maybe I can help you along the way. And I think these skill sets, these interpersonal skill development is important. Just like in sports, like I think we look at uh, getting in relationships, being married, as something that we can just learn along the way. But sometimes that can really hurt you along the way when you're not developing the set of skills that can get you out of like hurtful cycles or patterns that you keep showing up in your relationship, or the patterns that you keep showing up in your choice and how you decide to go into relationship, or people who you decide to connect with. These cycles that you keep going through, and you're like, why am I doing this? Because you need some other uh, personal development, interpersonal development, and that's the most important thing. And I think this journey is similar to how you develop as a person. And trying to get married like a student, you're doing this, it's almost the same process of learning, no matter where you are in your life. Like you can always learn more, so always be open to learning. That's the one thing. And reading books. Um, but it makes me want to reflect on, when I first came in, I had ideas about what I was going to do to be prepared, to be a student. So I was doing a lot of reading. I was doing a lot of reading in novels. I was reading some self-help books and things like that. Reading some of the books I had on relationships already. I was going through those books again, reading those, going through them, and I thought I was, preparing myself. You really have to sharpen your skills in reading and really get into that process of mindset of like, yes, you have to do tons of reading. And I went into the program like thinking I was on point. And so often we do that with relationships. We think that we know because we assume. There's no test. There's no one, asking you about what you're thinking about your process and testing your skill level, whatever. You just go and say, I met this person. They look attractive. They're attracted to me. I'm assuming. And now we're going to establish a family together, move in and do all the things that married people do. Right. And I will say that, I mean, I do believe, if you hear me saying this a lot, I do believe the ultimate relationships are marriage. I do believe that. And it's an important thing to really clarify and to really share, is that is the ultimate level. The other, relationship structures is no criticism on them, but I just think that marriage is it's just like being in the NBA. It's just me personally. It's just my personal opinion. You can have relationships and things like that, but going into the NBA, it's a different level. Um, you know, that's just my personal opinion. So when you hear me, I am going to be talking about marriage. I'm going to be getting to that goal of marriage, right? Because I think it's the ultimate level, and the ultimate level of commitment and responsibility. So, so along with that, me saying that, I went into this thinking that you will have to have, as an individual, I've already predicted, like, yeah, I'm going to be learning more about what those problem solving skills that will help you along your journey. And some of the skills that you have to have interpersonally, I already had an idea. Like if you're coming into a situation, you have to have these, or if you come into a session with a therapist, you're gonna be challenged in these areas. And what I talked about is that balanced thinking, dedication to truth, and accepting responsibility and delaying gratification. I talked about this before in other platforms, and I really thought that this would be some of the main perspective that you have to have. But once I started reading the book, so the first thing I did, like, um, signed up for classes when you were able to. I made sure that I got my books. So I made sure that I got my books. As they were coming in, I got the first book, which I really was attached to. I really am attached to it now. I think it's going to be one of my favorite books. So I started reading that book, and it's basically about therapeutic skill sets. What do you need to be a good therapist or to have better outcomes? So that means better outcomes, meaning how can you really help people at the end, and what you need to have as a therapist to get them there. So it's talking about the therapist itself. It's not even talking about the couple or the family. It's talking about the therapist, and it's the individual. What do you have in your skill set, right? And and I thought that these other things to mention, those four problem solving skills is what you really needed. But automatically, as soon as I'm start reading, they're talking about other things. They're talking about other skill sets that you need. And I think it still relates to people as individuals. And one of the things I do know is that you have to have is that genuine love for the people that you're working with, the people that you are getting in a relationship with. So I think this is just you just got to have that basic skill set or the basic desire to really want to be with the people you decide that you want to connect with, right? So I'm reading about these things, and before the week before school, I read my first book. Then I read another book. Then I started reading the textbook, and then in the midst of the third book, this is before class. It was 2 weeks before class. Sorry. So I finished the first book in the first week the first week going into the class, and then the second week I started reading another book and the third book. But because I already had these ideas that of almost like knowing, and it's a humbling experience. It's almost like knowing. I went in thinking I knew, and I almost got stuck because I was reading one of the scholars, and even though I didn't agree with everything, and you don't really have to, and I'm gonna bring up that point. I got stuck on it because I wanted to challenge it. So automatically, I started reading. I wanted to challenge the scholar. I mean, a person who's been in this field and studying and now producing books. So I automatically wanted to challenge some of the things that he had reported on in the book that we were reading. And the audacity of me to have done that, right? So it got to the point where it moved into the first class. So the first class started, and it was easy. It was just presenting syllabi and all that stuff, going through what's going to expectations and all that stuff. And so the second week comes around, I still didn't finish that book. So we have other articles and start reading other materials. So we had to start looking at other articles. So it's almost like four to five articles that you have to read, the required reading plus the text that you're reading. So it's like five other articles that you're reading, new material that you're getting. Going to the second week where now we're going to the meat of the information. So I'm still stuck on this. I still want to talk to someone about what this is going on. What is going on with this scholar that they would, report on this issue like this. I'm still stuck on it. But I have other stuff to do. So I'm messing up my mind. It's almost like becoming crippled in a way because of your, I guess your, I don't know what to call it. I guess maybe it is some arrogance there, right? And the audacity for me to hold my own self up because I'm gonna get to the point because of I think that I know better. I know better. I know more. So I go in, started getting the other information, and then I started off slow. So once we got into the second week, I started opening up all the assignments, and it's like a platform that they have. You have to open up all the assignments. What's coming up next, and you have the syllabi, the syllabi, along with all the required readings for the week. Um, and and I'm still stuck on this. So I click on one assignment, and I'm like, oh damn, I gotta read some more. So I started reading other stuff, and then at the end, you find out that you have to do a video. It's a video that you do, and the require is you have to answer questions based on your reading. And I'm like, okay, see what happens. Um, and there's a different level of reading when it comes to being able to get the information, understand it, to learn it, to be able to report out and to talk about it, right? So it's a different level. So I'm not really used to that, to be honest with you. I'm really used to reading material and just taking it in, and then that's it. That's the end of it. I may have some understanding of the small details, and talk about it in general, but to the level that you need to do it at this in school is just different, right? The expectations are different, and it should be different, right? If it's not different, then really it's not really worth it. But so I'm going in thinking that I'm ready, right? And then I know this, you know, who knows? So after I'm going to submit my assignment. I'm ready for it, and I'm going to now go into the platform and do the assignment. I'm going to attempt to do it. So you only have one attempt, okay? You have one attempt, and it's a video response. So what the professor does, you go into the platform, you ask a question on the video, you pause it, and then you answer the question. And then you unpause it, he asks another question. So he goes in. I go into it, I start it, and it's a video. So you can't, so it's either like once you start it, you can't stop until you finish. And then you submit it. So it's not like I had a chance to go and edit it or anything like that. So it's none of that. So it's just straight up reporting out. So I start the video. So he goes in and explains what we're doing, the process, welcoming the emerging, doctors and all that stuff, going to the pleasantries. And then he goes in to say, so based on the reading, can you share what you think homeostasis is? So he goes right in. What do you think homeostasis is related to the reading that we're doing? So I'm comfortable with that. Homeostasis, that's really like a balance. That's, you even if you don't know too much about how it's related to, relationships or to the reading, you really can you can actually come up with something with homeostasis. So that's it. I mean, because it's just balancing, or systems that are just trying to balance out, right? So then he goes back to a feedback loop. Okay, feedback loop. I think I read about that. So you got to remind you that he's asking a question, and you have to think about that at that time, and then report on it, right? So he can actually see you processing your thoughts. And I mean, I didn't realize that until the end. So I'm thinking like, all right, feedback loop. Did I remember reading that? So I'm trying to scramble. I'm trying to get some kind of notes to, really help me remind me of what that concept is in feedback loops. So you know what feedback is, but the loop, you can come up with something. So I did come up with something. So I'm like, all right, I got through that, and then he says, okay, all right, so we he has this description, then he goes into, then he always ends with this. Can you tell me, according to the reading, what do you think, or how would you define cybergenetics? Cybernetics is the term. And I'm like, cybernetics, like that sounds like some computer stuff. And I think I remember seeing something, but it was related to like machines or something. And I just couldn't think of how it's related to relationships. I lost it. So there I got stuck. And then I offered something, and I'm like, okay, that's one. Then he goes, what is a complex system? And I'm like, man, another, complex systems, but you're not really confident. Then he goes into recursion, and it's like, just hitting me with concepts that I really wasn't ready to report on and do it in a confident way. And this is all being recorded. So I think sometimes when you do this, is just a different level of commitment um, when you're at this level. And I think it's the same way it is when you get married. It's just a different level of commitment when these emotional challenges come, and you have to be committed. You have to be in the moment of it. There's no escaping, um, and you have to be able to rise to the occasion where you don't compromise a relationship, or you just don't fumble and just making stuff up as you go. And I think that sometimes that's what happens in relationships, is that because we don't have a knowledge base, we don't take the time, or I think as a culture, we're not teaching each other what it takes emotionally, what the interpersonal skill sets are, just like we do in sports. Like in sports, we make sure people are ready. I mean, it's like it's it's systemic to the point where it's degrees of how you learn, and but the process. If you're not in that process, you can't even get to the highest levels. And and when it comes to something of marriage, our most important decision that we'll make in life, we really don't have that process, and we actually would play house and call it like we actually think it's serious. And even though you're a teenager, you know nothing about relationships, you're really taking your relationship serious. And I remember, even telling some young people, like, this is like a relationship you have. If you're under the age of 24, the chances of you being with that person that you connected with during that time between, let's say, 16 to 24, the chances of you being with that person is less than 20%. And then if you live long enough, let's say like you live to what the average age of 60, 65, 67. So you're going to spend the next 50 years really being with other people. So it's like, why are you putting this much attention on this relationship where you're not even developing, I guess, good habits that will help you in the future? And we don't think about that, and we don't really understand it in that way. And that's why I wanted to share my experiences with you, because I think it's different in different levels, and I can help the next generation really, begin to just to even under just to know about the concepts, just being exposed to different information before you get married can help you be prepared for these emotional challenges. It really can, more so than when you're not even expecting it. It's like life cycles that people don't talk about, especially for men. Like, we don't even understand like what we're going through, and we just think it's just our habit, or we just men are just this way. No, it's a cycle, a family cycle that people go through that we just don't understand, and it's trends, it's statistics, it's studies on it, and we don't know about it, right? And I just want to be able to, to share that experience with you. So if you join me, like and subscribe to my channel, Travis Sellers. I think it is simple. Um, Maybe I can help you, and help myself. For one thing, help myself get better, and in that way, I can help other people get better. So if you like this, share, subscribe, like it, talk about it, ask me questions on my way. So this is my first attempt, and hopefully it'll be helpful. So peace and love.